Carson, thank you so much for joining us here today, and thanks again to everyone for being here. Let's jump in. Carson, your organization, the Coalition for Student Wellbeing, it's involved in conversations and policy advocacy on youth mental health across the country. What role do you see youth voices playing in addressing this challenge?
Well, thanks for having me, Andrew. The Coalition for Student Wellbeing was founded on the premise that young people are often left out of key conversations when it comes to making policy, but not necessarily by design. College students in particular, it's a tremendously hard group to engage, right? There's lots of turnover when you look at students from two-year institutions, four-year institutions. It's a busy time, a period of transition for a lot of people in their lives. And so it's not necessarily to fault. But at the Coalition for Student Wellbeing, our job is to bridge the gap between students and decision makers through advocacy, collaboration, and education. And ultimately, our goal is to be able to engage and mobilize students from all across the country to be a voice for their peers in their communities and affect change around student well-being.
Amazing. So Carson, tell us a little bit more about how you first got involved in mental health advocacy.
Thank you, yeah. My journey in advocacy actually started when I was 12 years old in my home state of Massachusetts, when I had the opportunity to testify in support of expanding access to telemedicine services. And at that point, a lot of my advocacy was tied to my personal journey with a rare form of Crohn's disease. And from ages about 8 to 16, I was averaging about 50 doctor's appointments per year. And so I was super fortunate to have a family that was able to make that work. But for expanding access to telehealth, a lot of people would have gone without seeking care. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to be a voice for something that would impact so many families, including mine, and really ease access to care. And ever since that first time that I was able to testify when I was 12 years old, I then became fascinated and infatuated with policy and advocacy. But unfortunately, a couple short years later, during my freshman year of high school, is when one of my closest friends died by suicide. And seeing the impact that had on my community, and obviously the impact that had on me personally, really drove me to, after taking the adequate time to grieve, to want to go make a change in this space and expand access to mental health care, education, and resources for all. Amazing story, and thank you so much for everything that you do, obviously.
Taking zooming out a little bit, where do you see opportunities to strengthen the mental health care outlook, especially for young people today?
Well, I think first it starts with having conversations like we're able to have today. I mean, the lineup of people gathered here to talk about mental health and well-being throughout the whole world is honestly such an incredible thing to see, from diplomats to researchers to the former Surgeon General, who I'm a big fan of, Dr. Murthy. But it's just so incredible to see such a comprehensive conversation convened around mental health. But I think beyond just talking about the issue, we need to make sure that we're turning this into action. And that's why I'm so grateful to be representing today the Coalition to Empower Our Future, which really does such an incredible job at convening rooms like this, where we have parents, students, and decision makers all at one table that's able to adequately work on addressing comprehensive solutions to the youth well-being challenge. And beyond that, I think we also need to focus on innovative and scalable solutions. At the Coalition for Student Wellbeing, we've launched an advocacy initiative at the start of this year where we're working to add the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on student IDs throughout the nation. 988, for those who are not familiar, is a 24/7 free resource provided by the federal government that provides crisis care for people in need. But only 23% of Americans know about this life-saving resource that's right there for them and that they're able to call at any time. And so at the Coalition for Student Wellbeing, obviously, this issue is so large and complex, it's important to narrow down where you're able to make change. And for us, we saw this as a wonderful opportunity to leverage education and leverage a tool as simple as student IDs, a very high traffic utilized resource by students, so that they have a reminder in their pocket every single day of where they can go for help if they're in crisis. And so we've been fortunate to deliver a number of wins at schools like the University of Michigan, University of Arkansas, and a whole bunch more just in the short couple of weeks that we've had, a couple of months of this year, and excited to see how we can continue to impact students. And ultimately our hope is to try to save lives through that initiative.
Amazing, and it's so much great impact through that. So there's been a lot of focus today and in the news on the use of phones and devices. I feel like all of us are probably guilty of that at some point or another. Carson, what's your take on all of this?
Well, I think phones are undoubtedly part of the conversation, right? I mean, I grew up in Gen Z. I'm 21 years old. I'm the generation that grew up with phones in their hands. And so it's undeniably a part of it. But I also think that there's so many opportunities for us to leverage social media and technology if we're able to harness it right. One of the members of the Coalition to Empower Our Future is an organization called Media Literacy Now that does just such a wonderful job at providing real education for families, for educators, to be able to arm the young people in their lives with the right tools, knowledge, and resources to harness the best of the digital world, to have a healthy relationship with social media and hopefully be more connected. But beyond that, I think it's so important to invest in our communities. Something I was so appreciative of the work of Dr. Murthy was on loneliness and isolation. I think there's so much work that we have to do in this country to simultaneously address social media, but also address what's going on with this lack of belonging in our country. And I think there's a number of places that we can start. I think we need to make sure that kids have access to older mentors in their community, I think is a simple way. I think by getting people active, leveraging youth sports is a great outlet. But ultimately, I think we also need to help children find their passion. I've been super lucky growing up, and it's been, obviously through some medical challenges, but to figure out at the age of 12, my passion was advocacy. And I like to think that if other people can find their passions earlier on in lives, they're going to live a fulfilled life, and we're a better society because of that.
I love that. As a father of two, definitely something I think I can take back. So let's zoom out and let's think about, put our optimist hat on for a second. Youth mental health challenge today, it's undoubtedly one of the most pressing issues that the country is facing. But what gives you hope for the future?
I appreciate the question. I'm glad we're able to end on somewhat of a high note with there. I'm a very optimistic person. I'm very hopeful. There's really two sources of inspiration for my hope. Number one is my peers. I'm incredibly fortunate to work with young people from every corner of this country who are leaders in their community. And every single day, I genuinely pinch myself getting to meet the people that I meet that are making change in their communities. And I have no doubt that our generation does have a lot of tall orders to face and challenges to address, but I have no doubt that there's so many bright minds within my generation that will be willing to come forward and try to make a change there. But second is the possibility of progress, I think is really important. When we look at a challenge as broad and complex as youth well-being, it can oftentimes get overwhelming. And I think a lot of the time why people don't get involved in advocacy, it's hard to find where to start. And something I try to really press upon our advocates is progress, not perfection, is the goal. This is such a complex challenge that's going to take generations to solve. But if we're able to focus on the pursuit of progress, we're going to be able to make real change. As if it's something as small as changing 988, adding 988 on the student IDs, because someone knew that number, that might save their life. And so really taking a big problem and looking at how we can begin to address things in our communities, hope to save lives, and ultimately I look forward to dedicating the rest of my life in pursuit of that progress.
Amazing. Well, we've got time for one last question. Carson, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last few weeks. You're a pretty busy guy. How are you able to manage serving as both the executive director for Coalition for Student Wellbeing, appear at events like the one we have here at Semaphore today, all while juggling being an undergraduate at University of Texas? How do you do it all, and how do you stay organized?
I don't know what I would do without the airlines. Big shout out to them. It's great to be in DC as often as I get to do. But I think for me, ironically, the answer to that question, it really, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. And I think for me, my journey growing up with Crohn's disease and the medical challenges that I had, I think really prepared me for the work that I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do now. And I think one part about that was I was so used to missing school from the time that I was 8 years old. So I know no different.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, that is very much my answer of I would literally, the second we would start, a semester or a class, I would be working to get as far ahead in that class as I can, knowing that ultimately there was going to be a point in time where I was not doing well and would likely fall back. And not only did that give me the